All right, welcome back, kings and queens, y'all. I did not forget about you. Did you think I was just going to leave you in suspension without providing an adequate update on the David Tesla case? David is the singer, right? The singer, and there was a dismembered body found in his Tesla, in the front trunk of his Tesla. And come to find out, it's a teen. Come to find out, her name was Celeste. Initially, when they found the body, they had no identity. They had to try to figure out who she was. And when it was all said and done, she was a teen that had run away from home. And it's being alleged that David started dating her when she was probably age 12 to 13. We believe he met her when she was age 10 to 11 on whatever platform the kids go to game on. It's a lie. But anywho, I'm here. I'm back. There's a few things I want to talk about. The first thing is LAPD has gone stone cold Steve Austin silent. Okay. They are not talking. Good job. I think that's smart. I think that's strategy. The second thing is the DA doesn't have the case yet, but I do believe they're waiting. I do believe they're waiting. And if I do say so myself, I believe David is a suspect. I just don't feel like they're saying anything and they have to be very careful. But I do believe he's a primary suspect, although it has not been formally announced. The third thing I want to focus on is the owner has surrendered the security videos, okay? The homeowner hired a private investigator. He has the footage, and they are going to dissect that footage to figure out if Celeste was indeed in that home when she was unalived, when she took her last breath. Because as of now, we have no details. Last but not least, I want to wrap it up and I want to talk about why I have a funny feeling and a sneaky suspicion that David was attracted to Celeste. All right, we're going to talk about it. For those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television. Ah, see, we have bloopers every now and then specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience.
Subscribe now.
A few things we do know is that Celeste was found dismembered, dead in David's car, in a Tesla that was registered to David. We do know for a fact that David had a relationship with Celeste. To what extent, nobody has really gone on the record to formally establish that it was sexual, but we can assume it was based on them being seen out together, based on insiders who was close to both David and Celeste that have reported that they were indeed boyfriend and girlfriend. However, those people are claiming they had no idea that she was a teenager. I call bullshit. I'm gonna have to throw a flag on the play. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And as a matter of fact, I have a funny feeling and a sneaky suspicion that's many of these men may have been dating and or seeing underage girls. And here's why I say that. I cannot put the text up because I do believe David's people are out here scouring and perusing the YouTube streets and reporting videos about David. But I put up a text message. I'm sorry, a communication exchange between Celeste and one of her friends when I first started covering this case. And the exchange went something like this. The other young lady, the teen on the other side of the coin that was speaking to Celeste about engaging sexually, wanted to know if it was normal to, how do I say this? If it was normal to, um, give me a few seconds. I want to figure out how do I say this? Okay, if you cut yourself with a piece of paper, if you cut yourself, right? And if you have a cut, typically when you have a cut, it would bleed. Y'all follow me? So she was asking Celeste, is it normal for this to happen when engaging? Celeste said, not really, but I did with David. I did with David. So whomever Celeste was communicating with, we can assume that person had little to no sexual experience. Little to no sexual experience, and was asking about a guy that Celeste was obviously familiar with, and as far as we know, the only people around David were David's people. I am assuming, And I strongly believe, based on my 47 years of experience on this earth, there's a strong possibility that whomever the other young lady was referring to was a man of age, like David himself. That's why I say I don't believe David's circle when they say, oh, we thought she was 19. I think that's the lies you tell. I think that's your story, and that's what you're sticking with. And I think most of them may have had encounters with young girls, okay? With young girls. Anywho, once the authorities were able to identify the body, trace it back to David's Hollywood Hills residence, and everything came out in the media, the owner spoke out and said he had no idea that David was on the lease because David wasn't on the lease. It was David's manager who signed the lease. So the owner of the home said, wait a minute. From the contract, I didn't lease this home to a David. I leased this home to his manager. Didn't know it was David's manager, right? And David's manager, the name on the contract that the lease who signed the lease was Josh Marshall. Okay. Josh is denying any involvement. Josh is denying being at the residence. Josh says that he works from home as an entertainment manager and he does not have to have on site engagement with a bulk of his business. His book of business, he can work from home. Do you believe that? Because I don't. Anywho, the owner has now turned over the surveillance, the security videos to the cops so that they can establish whether or not Celeste was in that home before she died, okay? And according to TMZ, the Los Angeles Police Department sitting on a potential gold mine in the David investigation, surveillance videos from the singer's Hollywood Hills rental home that could reveal whether Celeste was there prior to her mysterious death. The reason why we're calling it mysterious is because they have not released a cause of death. I don't know if it's undetermined or if the medical examiner has not yet been able to make a decision, okay? TMZ has learned that the cops seized all the footage from multiple security cameras at the house last month while executing a search warrant. The owner of the house, Malden, let me see if I can say his name, Malden Trifunovic, tells us the external cameras is going to show. He said, listen, those cameras were on, they were active. And one thing they're going to show you is anybody who went in or out of that house. I'm hoping, y'all, that Celeste was in that home. I'm hoping they capture whomever was there with her. Because I don't really care. Okay, I know people are saying, well, he's not a suspect in major news outlets. I think he is. I think they're playing it coy. But at the end of the day, it's still a deranged, dark, demonic individual that took it upon themselves to dismember her. He's still dark, demonic, and individual for having a sexual relationship with a child. It's inappropriate. It's against the law. And that alone should get his ass locked up, if you ask me. Okay? Now, the owner of the home says that he has not seen any of the footage himself because he intentionally did not have access to the cameras to allow his renters privacy. He says that's just his best practice. You know, if you rent from me, I try not to poke and prod. I want to make sure that you feel safe. Therefore, I allow my renters to have privacy. So, according to him, he has no idea if Celeste was ever in the house. Do you believe that? Do you believe the owner just closed his eyes, hired a private investigator, and then handed over the video surveillance to the Los Angeles Police Department without taking a look at anything? What are your thoughts? I'm asking you that question for a particular reason. Let's go back. Let's go back into time. Do you recall the hotel surveillance video at the Los Angeles Intercontinental Hotel of that was leaked of Diddy beating Cassie in that hallway? You remember that? See, that video was supposed to be destroyed. Diddy paid, I know this for a fact, Diddy paid $100,000 to have that video destroyed. Okay? He paid $50K to the hotel security director. And then the runner, That's the lowest guy on the totem pole. Charged Diddy 50K on top of the 50K that his boss got, but he never let his boss know that he was backdooring him. So Diddy paid 100K and for the tape to be destroyed, but yet it showed up anyway. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I ask you, do you feel like the landlord is telling the truth? Or do you feel like he's keeping a copy just in case one day he decides to sell it and make a little money off of it? Yeah, but he's saying, I haven't seen any. I have no idea if Celeste was ever in the house. He said that he's asked Los Angeles Police Department for a copy of the warrant and an itemized list of what was seized from the house, but has not gotten a response. Yeah, they're not gonna. This is a criminal investigation, sir. I don't know who you think you are. You're not gonna get anything. Malden has hired a private investigator to look into Celeste's death. He said his PI is still very early on and his investigation has nothing to share yet. I don't believe that either. And I'm going to just say this to the owner of the home. Now is not the time to try to play the great American hero. Sit back, relax, let the investigators allow the detectives and law enforcement to do their thing. According to TMZ, the people who partied with David, like I said earlier, they're claiming, yes, they presented as a couple, but everybody thought she was 19. I'm going to call BS. And that they thought she was a student at USC. I could tell listen, we're going to leave that alone, but okay. All right. We're 6 weeks in, folks. And the Los Angeles Police Department has not named a suspect or even persons of interest in the case. Here's what I believe. I believe there's too many to count. I believe there's a great possibility that they may have stumbled upon something. And I'm not going to say they're overwhelmed. Whatever it is, they're trying to figure out who the bigger fish is. Who do we fry first? Okay. Now, the owner wants to know and get down to the bottom of what happened inside his home. I understand that. I understand his concern because he feels like the Los Angeles Police Department isn't giving him enough information. Well, don't hold your breath waiting. I doubt you'll get any information. If you understand anything, the family of the Idaho 6 one, two, was it 6? The Idaho 4 that were murdered, they were frustrated with law enforcement because they felt like they didn't get any information and they are family. They're first of kin. Okay. So I don't think you're going to get anything. So the home has been searched by the police as a part of Celeste's death investigation. And now he has a PI to go back and backtrack whatever it is that he feels that he needs that the police isn't offering up. Last month, when the police raided that home, they were looking for blood evidence, which tells us that it indicates they believe that Celeste may have been unalived, killed in that home. And if you're looking for blood, that doesn't really equate to an overdose. If I had to think like an investigator, they could it be, let me put it in question form. Could it be they're trying to keep everybody comfortable, relaxed, so that nobody panics and does anything stupid? If it were just David, I think it would be an open and shut case, but I don't believe it's just David, which is why the Los Angeles Police Department has gone silent. TMZ, out of their mouths, not mine, said, listen, typically we have moles. We have people everywhere that we can pull information from, including the Los Angeles Police Department. But guess what? Nobody's talking. They are keeping this thing so tightly wrapped. There are no leaks. There's no moles. We cannot get anything. That's why I believe it's way bigger than what's being presented to us. Okay. That's it. That's all. Now, I want to get into why I believe David may have been attracted to Celeste. All right. So before I get into the psychology behind why I strongly, strongly, strongly believe why I strongly believe David was attracted to Celeste, I want to give you a little bit about his background because I think I need to make it make sense, right, from a psychological perspective. And I think once you get a good understanding of that foundation, then we can transition into the correlation between David, his family background, and what may have driven this deep, dark attraction to Celeste. So David is the son of David Burke Sr. and Colleen Roberts Burke. And his parents, their background, they have very interesting backgrounds. These are very smart people, very scholared and schooled people. His father is a litigation or was a litigation support manager when I did this research, right? Um, and his father specializes in e-discovery and computer information systems. So what is a litigation support manager? It's an analyst, an individual that oversees the technical and administrative aspects of a legal team's case management, right? Large scale. Think along the lines of large scale litigation. Primary responsibilities revolve around processing, collection of data, extracting, reviewing electronic data, e-discovery, implementing, maintaining case management, knowing where everything is, where it's housed, the systems, and coordinating with vendors and legal staff to make sure that everything is efficient and that they are prepared to provide the proper amount of support, right? So his dad, smart guy. Let's go to the mom. Let's talk about David's mom. David's mom is Colleen, okay? And Colleen, although we don't know much about her professional background. I do know she liked guns. I do know she liked guns. I mean, but most Texans do, right? Her name was reported after she was allegedly seen at a Texas gun store. So when we think about David's upbringing, his parents, he grew up in a strict, very strict, devout, religious, brimstone fire, Bible toting Christian household. They were devout Christians. Perfect to a T. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. Perfect to a T. David has younger siblings. We do know he has a brother. We do know he has a sister. I'm going to assume there's 3 children, okay? His mother, David's mother, was highly involved in his upbringing and his education. His mother took on a very traditional role. That's no shade. When we think about the structure of traditional families and how they're supposed to be, it's almost like his family maintained that. His mom homeschooled him. His mother homeschooled him. Make a note of that. That's going to be really, really important. How did he get into music? Well, he shares this story often when he does his interview. He was a huge Fortnite game player. So when he was making Fortnite montage videos and he was being struck by YouTube, he was encountering copyright strikes. He was very upset to his mom. I mean, he was upset. He went to his mom and said, "Listen, I'm not making any money on YouTube. They keep copyright striking me." His mom said, "So, go make your own music." Just like that. She was so confident in the skills and the traits and the education that she had placed upon her kids. She looked at him and said, "Go make your own music." And that prompted him to teach himself how to make music. Now, David himself says, "I'm not a singer." He said, "I can't sing. I would just make sounds and play with the audio and kind of manipulate the cadence of the beats, and before you know it, my songs became more popular than the game itself." And in multiple interviews, David mentions his mother's support and encouragement as a critical component in his creative path. Now, I want to get to the part about the mom where she homeschooled him. When David was in 7th grade, the mom pulled him out from school. Period. Cold turkey. No more socialization with these kids. I am going to homeschool you. 7th grade. Now, if you think about the average age for 7th graders in Texas, it ranges between age 12 to 13 years old. which is why I believe there's a strong correlation of arrested development. David may have been attracted to Celeste because that's when his emotional maturity stopped evolving, when he was between 12 to 13 years old. We're going to get into it. Celeste was in the 7th grade when she was deep in a relationship with David. Do you see the correlation? Do you see where I'm headed with this? Okay. 7th grade is typically the first or second year of middle school. David was dating a child in middle school because David, there's a strong possibility, emotionally may not have developed beyond the first or second year of middle school. Follow me very closely. David's mother and father became fanatics about raising child geniuses. They were so fanatic about it that they were willing to sacrifice their children's well being. And what I mean by well being is not their safety, but their mental well being. We all need a little bit of socialization. We need to socialize in order to develop, especially at that age. But his mother and father were hell bent on ensuring that their kids became geniuses in their own right. And he is a genius. If you've ever heard him speak, if you've ever heard him talk, his vocabulary is out of this world. He's extremely smart, book smart. But when it comes to love, when it comes to socialization, when it's the sociology of it all, when it comes to relationships, his primary demographic ranges between ages 10 to 16. Do you get me? Now let's talk a little bit, or actually, let's take a look at some of the things that David had to say.
I know, right?
Your mom is the reason you like your mom is amazing.
She's the GOAT, bro.
Like you just needed music for your video game videos, and like your mom could have like come up with another solution, but she was
Right.
like, do it yourself. Like who just goes like figure it out?
Shout out to mom. That's my mom.
That's fucking awesome. Like, and then you're
It may seem like it was like a one-time thing, but she's been trying to get me into music for so long, man. She put me into piano lessons when I was 7, and I quit that after a week. She was like, okay, I'm not gonna pay for it if you don't like it. Quit that. She put me in a church choir when I was 8. Quit that. And then I was in middle school band when I was in 7th grade. I played the flute. I can still play the flute really good. And I quit that because I got homeschooled. I didn't quit, but I got homeschooled, so I couldn't play it anymore. And then after that, it was just like years and years of no music until I'm about to graduate high school, doing the Fortnite stuff, and boom, there it is.
What do you think your mom saw in you that maybe you didn't see in yourself?
I don't know. She's always in an empowerment, like she always empowered like DIY, self-thinking, self-sufficiency, do-it-yourself type of vibe. And she wasn't.
I like that aspect of his mother. I like that. But it almost seems like her desire for her children to become brainiacs, prodigies, stifled their growth. And here's the outcome: a dead body in your son's trunk of his car, dismembered.
He always wanted to just be creative. Like my little brother had like an animation phase for a long time. He was like animating his own projects and making arms move and drawing stuff. And so she bought him an animation tablet and was like, okay, you're gonna do that. But what is David gonna do? David doesn't have a passion yet. What is he gonna do? It's not Fortnite. Which I was at the time, it was just Fortnite. That's all I wanted to do. But then, you know, she's always been this person that's wanted us to be very, very intelligent and smart. Everything we played in the house, music-wise, was just Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, gospel music, like classical stuff, instrumentals only. Like we didn't listen to any other music. There was no like, we weren't listening to Lady Gaga and all, like all the popular artists everybody was listening to. We never could listen to that because my parents just wouldn't let us. It was just like straight classical stuff. So
In Houston.
Yeah, his mom literally pulled him from public school, shut them off from the rest of the world. And I get it. She didn't want the negative influence, but in doing so, she gave him the freedom to establish and create this dark imagination. And so he began to fantasize about things that he never got a chance to feel because his mom disconnected him from that. So he imagined what love would be like. But instead of imagining what that would look like with a woman, he imagined what it would look like from the moment she pulled him from 7th grade. So his brain goes back to falling in love with a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, because that's when he probably reached puberty. Okay. So he developed this deep, dark fantasy about love that he really goes into detail about. And he said that he started to manifest heartbreak. And if you start to listen to the lyrics in his songs, it's all deep heartbreak. And I can't help but to wonder if the heartbreak actually came from the mother.
I was like writing all these heartbreak and breakup songs before I even entered my first relationship. And then once that actually happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of spoke the heartbreak into existence, kind of, you know?
Just be real with me.
Love shouldn't be transactional.
Real? Why?
I feel like most of the time, especially like nowadays, people get into a relationship, or we use the term situationship a lot now, where you have to give something to gain something. And I feel like,
All right. Love shouldn't be transactional. Let's continue.
yeah,
Like, has love been a big part of your life?
it hasn't always been, because I was homeschooled for the majority of like when love mattered. And then everything was just, you know, parental love and familial love, but not anything romantic. So it wasn't a big part of my early years. And then once, you know, I started doing music and got into the real world, and that's when it kind of came into play. And I was writing songs preemptively. I was like writing all these heartbreak and breakup songs before I even entered my first relationship. And then once that actually happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of spoke the heartbreak into existence, kind of, you know? So yeah, my relationship with love as an emotion is really complicated because I started to expect certain things before they would happen, almost like I was wishing for it. But yeah, no, it's not been a huge part of my personal, you know, vibe, but I've always been infatuated and interested in the concept of it. And that's why I write about the various ways love can go in my songs. But personally, I try to, you know, stay as reserved as possible and not, you know, ruin my perception of it before it's too late, I guess, you know.